Okay. Well, I haven't been doing this, um, any kind of streaming, obviously. Um, but I got to thinking I better do something. Otherwise, I'm just probably never gonna do it again. So I don't know that I have anything to talk about per se. I'm just continuing to work through editing audio. Very slow process. Um, Another reason is because I haven't been getting to editing audio. I've been doing other projects uh, pretty much all week, and I was really hoping to be done with the editing portion of this project by the end of this week, and that's not going to happen now um, because there's quite a lot left to do, and I haven't been working on it. Okay. I gotta send my audio to a place where I can hear it. Um, Nobody's here right now, so I'm just gonna use my speakers.
Chapter 14 Inquiry.
That should be good. So, I only just noticed that it seems like my camera is over the top of the audio editing software. So I guess as I've been editing software, there's been a part, or editing software, editing audio. There's been a part that's been invisible. Whoops, sorry about that. Didn't realize. So I've been continuing to watch some videos about people's opinions on AI.
Is this some kind of test?
I think people as a whole are very cautious about it. I think that's not surprising at all. I think anytime something new has shown up, I think as a whole, people have been very cautious about it. But its benefits are undeniable, or at least its profitability is undeniable. So we're going to keep moving forward with it, no matter what we think about it. So I feel like, at the end of the day, everybody's going to kind of have to get used to it. Um, Particularly in the art community, there is just a lot of outright hatred for people who use AI in any capacity, and I get that. There's a lot of like shaming.
You haven't spoken to me in weeks. And what is this display? I've never seen you without your armor on.
Okay, this didn't seem right for its label, um, but now I remember what's going on in the story. I also didn't remember like what kind of a voice I had used for this character, and this was not what I expected, at least today. Um, but it's good. This is labeled correctly. I would be surprised if any of this was labeled incorrectly, though. Um,
We are friends.
it's pretty straightforward process recording. But yeah, so a lot of shaming for people who use AI. A lot of, hey, are you proud of yourself? You traced that. You have no skill. Doesn't that bother you that you have no skill? I think that insult in particular kind of stuck with me, because I really, I feel like that's a fair insult, right? Like, yep, I am. I am tracing. That's true, and that's part of the reason why I'm not trying to call myself an artist. Um, I think the broader reason why, excuse me, I'll get rid of this gum. I think the broader reason why I'm not trying to call myself an artist is because I'm not, as much as I am benefiting from the experience of creating the artwork, it's not my intent to pursue becoming
I
better.
can't believe you're getting married.
Um, and in my head, I think of an artist as one of two things. They're either a person who has something so powerful to express that they can't help themselves, uh, you know, in a sense. Like, if they ignore the impulse, it will bother them until they stop ignoring it. I describe it that way because that's how I am with this story that I'm
Do
working on.
you want to get married?
So regardless of whether the story itself is good, or not, or I guess more relevant to my life, whether it is profitable or not, um, I'm still going to feel that drive and that need to put it out there, to get it done, um, to finish making it. I took over a decade to try to ignore this entirely and just say, hey, I'm not good enough. I failed to attract the attention of a publisher. Clearly, my story, is no good, and I'm not a writer. Kind of in the same vein as the I'm not an artist, but, not entirely. And to just shelve it and let it go.
I have never heard you talk about Cass. What is he like?
Um, Oops, I bumped my microphone. Sorry about that. But after a year of trying to, or not a year, after like 12 or 13 years of trying to just forget that I ever cared about this, I kind of was driven to the conclusion that I don't really have the luxury of doing that. And so, regardless of whether this is profitable or not, whether I can treat this like a job, which is what I'm currently doing, is treating it like a job. But that's only because I don't have another job. So, whether or not I could treat this like a job,
Soon it will be his castle, too.
I'm treating it like a. I'm sorry. I'm gonna. I've come to the conclusion that I need to get it done. I'm sorry for my broken train of thought. Um, I need to finish it. I need to get it out there. If for nobody's sake other than my own, um, then, and who knows, maybe not even then. I've definitely known people who have done a project and they've put it out there and they've got it to the point where I would say, yes, that is complete. You should be happy with that.
His castle will be yours, though.
Um, and then they've, continued to work on it and tinker with it and refine it, forever. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. Like, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. I also think that's a thing worth avoiding. Um, because it can inhibit your ability to do other things. I think people like to look for hard and fast rules that they can universally apply, like, you should never continue refining something after you've already presented it. You should just say it's done and move on. Universal rule, every circumstance, this is the rule. That feels comfortable to have that, as like your standard that you can lean into. But I think in reality, it's not that simple. It's not cut and dry like that. Like some projects, you present it, but you continue refining it. I think the most obvious example would be like performance art, like operas and plays, even musical concerts. The performers are absolutely continuing to refine their performance and the overall product as they continue presenting it over and over again. In fact, presenting it itself is part of the process of refining it. So that's just a real easy example of how it's not necessarily valid to say once you've presented it to somebody then you've hit the finish line and you don't need to put any more effort into it. And I think that same kind of mindset can be, and sometimes is, applied across other mediums, in both healthy and unhealthy ways, obviously. I think the example that I was given was the Mona Lisa, and you'll have to forgive me. I suppose I could Google it. I don't know who painted it, whether it was... All right, I'll Google it. So if you say who PA, the top thing that pops in is who painted the Mona Lisa. See, I thought it was going to be Michelangelo because I'm dumb. It was Leonardo da Vinci. But in any case, the example that had been repeatedly given to me was that apparently this man, he worked on this painting for years, maybe for his whole life. I'm not sure that he ever finished or ever thought he finished. And so the lesson that was delivered to me, that was derived from that, is that you have to be careful not to obsess over your project, because then it can just become the only thing that you ever do, is just this one thing, because that's all you ever can do. You feel you need to invest all of your effort into continually refining and improving it. Now, the Mona Lisa is without a doubt an impressive painting. But I think people look at it and they think, this artist, this incredible painter, could likely have done so many more projects if they hadn't continued throwing themselves into just this one project over and over and over again, trying to attain some impossible end. Now, whether or not this is like a true story or just, like an art lesson that gets passed down, I don't really know. But I think, it's a good thought.
Messeth brushed Tiala's hair in the early afternoon. She was still amazed the princess could be so nonchalant about such a major event. They had only been friends for a few months, though, and Messeth hadn't yet met Prince Cass. Perhaps there was more to the relationship than Tiala indicated. Tiala was silent for her part, choosing not to react to Messeth's inquiry.
Hang on.
If she had any thoughts or feelings about the impending
Accidentally pressed an Alt key. I thought I heard a breath. Let's go back.
And Messeth hadn't yet met Prince Cass.
No, I think it was further back than that. We'll just start over.
Messeth brushed Tiala's hair in the early afternoon. She was still amazed the princess could be so nonchalant about such a major event. They had only been friends for a few months, though, and Messeth hadn't yet met Prince Cass. Perhaps there was more to the relationship than Tiala indicated. Tiala was silent for her part, choosing not to react to Messeth's inquiry. If she had any thoughts or feelings about the impending union, she was determined to keep them to herself. It would all be over soon enough. The wedding was only a few months away. Truthfully, it bothered her how enthusiastic Messeth was about the prospect of marriage. Who and when Tiala would marry had never been a mystery. She didn't understand why it would be exciting. Messeth stopped mid-stroke and looked down at Tiala with concern before asking.
No breathing in there. Some of these word combinations were really difficult to say. I remember, like Messeth's inquiry. Like I want to get like the TH sound. I want that to be very clear. But that's difficult to say in a way that sounds natural. I think that's really the struggle. Like I can say Messeth's inquiry, but then, you know, obviously I'm putting a lot of emphasis on it. But then if I say Messeth's inquiry, that just sounds like gobbledygook. Like obviously I'm stumbling over the word Messeth. The TH sound at the end is really difficult to work with. Yeah, that was a hard one. I'm not unhappy with how it turned out though. Like it stands out a little bit. Obviously, I think it was obvious that I was struggling with it in the recording as you listen to it. I think you can hear that. But I think it's not overdone. So it's not terribly obvious. So I think it comes across well. There was more than one spot in the story where that was the case, and some of them I rewrote so that they would be easier to say, and some of them, like that one, I felt like there wasn't really a way that I wanted to rewrite it. I liked the delivery enough that I didn't feel like rewriting it to accommodate not saying Messeths, which the TH and then the apostrophe S. So basically, I think the way you get around that would be to rewrite it so that there is no possessive for Messeth. You're only ever just saying Messeth, and not Messeths. But I liked the cadence enough that I just kind of accepted that there's going to be this awkward thing to say. So I kept it. And, you know, it is what it is, I guess. But I think it will be obvious to anyone who listens to it that was a bit of a struggle to put that together. All right. So after this is done, after I'm done cleaning this up, which I'm on chapter 14 right now, and that is 14 out of 17 for part 2. So I need to clean 14 through 17 and then piece them together, and then part 2 I can get that up on Audible. But it is also chapter 14 out of 40 currently. So I'm not, by the time I finish part 2, I will be not quite halfway as far as chapter count goes.
It was a question she often asked Tiala when conversation allowed.
There's like a liquidy noise in there.
It was a question she often asked Tiala when conversation allowed.
I don't think I can get that out.
But the princess never really gave an answer. It's good for the kingdom, or it...
Ooh, maybe this one I can get out. Let's try that. See if we can eliminate that little liquidy click in there.
It's good for the kingdom, or it will make father happy, were her typical replies.
Ooh. I think we can get rid of that. Let's see. I think that's just a little mouth noise at the end there.
Go replies. Yeah. Messeth wondered if Tiala had seriously thought about what it meant to be married. It would be strange if she hadn't, with the wedding imminent, but the princess rarely spoke of it. Tiala's annoyance with the subject made Messeth worried the marriage joining their kingdoms would have no hope of happiness. She was surprised this time when Tiala responded with a somber, barely audible,
okay. And that's why I listened to it, is because there I found a couple spots where I could edit out some of the what would I want? Some of the ick, I guess. So yeah, so I'll be, after I finish the project for part 2, I'll be not quite halfway. So how far I am is important to me because there are a couple individuals who I think have expressed interest in the work, but they don't want to get involved until it's complete so that they know they can hear the whole story. I thought this was kind of ridiculous at first. Like when we had the conversation, I thought, well, that you have so little faith in me, you know, like I have some ready right now for you to listen to. Please show some support and do it. But in the long run, it was proven wise, I guess. Now you know, in my inner monologue, I kind of placed some blame on their shoulders. Like, wow, and it was so demoralizing to hear that you weren't even interested in listening to it. But I think that's something that I made up. Like, I don't think that's actually what they said. They didn't say they're not interested in listening to it. They said, I want to wait until I have the whole story, which I can totally appreciate that.
She said it like a soldier who had just been asked to sacrifice their life for the sake of the king. It was a serious response. All duty, no joy. Messeth's heart ached over the coldness Tiala displayed.
And I have run into hurdles along the way. Like I thought I was going to be done with this back in January or February, and then March, or by the end of April. And then, you know, kind of at that point, when the end of April came and went, and I wasn't, you know, even far along, much less done, I kind of, you know, got lost in the wilderness again, and was not making forward momentum. And I'm not alone in this. I think this happens to everybody. But when it does happen, you know, you can lose months to this feeling. Like if I had done nothing other than just edit, you know, 1 or 2 files a day, which is nothing. Like that's not even, you couldn't call that work. It'd just be a couple moments of my time every day. If I had done that May, June, July, August, and September, I wouldn't even be doing this right now. You know, this would be done. This would be over. All of the silences would have already been worked out.
Was the best question Messeth could muster. She tried in the past to talk about her own excitement over the prospect of getting married. She tried to be inspiring by sharing hopes and dreams, but nothing penetrated Tiala's quiet determination. Tiala shuffled in her seat to turn toward Messeth quizzically.
I think when you get lost like that, you just end up losing a lot of time. And so it's important to have like a mechanism to kind of shake you out of your days. And I haven't really invested in having a mechanism to do that. So unfortunately, here we are, October, a year after I started this project, and I'm not done, which I thought for sure I would be done, and I'm not even as far along as I wanted to be. And like I shouldn't say more or think more about it than that. Like that's just, those are the facts. Because the more I talk and think about it, the more of a failure I realize I am.
Messeth offered. Tiala's perplexed expression twisted her face in response, and Messeth quickly added,
Just knowing what I could have gotten done. And so I feel that failure very personally. And then that becomes another thing to kind of shut me down and make me not move forward. I kind of hobbled myself by putting restrictions in my own way. Like every morning I would wake up and think about what I wanted to get done that day. And I would think, okay, if I want to work on audio, that means I have to commit to doing a full chapter. And I don't really want to do a full chapter today. It's so boring. I want to take on a different project. And that's kind of some of the thinking that I had. I say a lot. It's true. If that's bothering you, just know it's also bothering me. That's kind of some of the mindset that went on this week. Now, I did have legitimate things that I wanted to work on, that were important, that were even important to this project. But there was also an aspect of, I don't want to commit to working on a full chapter today. That's going to be so much time and investment, and it's so boring. I don't want to do it. I'm not into it. I want to avoid it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to avoid it. But that leads to, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the days go by and I get nothing done. And now it's Friday and I'm only now just starting to work on chapter 14, where the plan that I had was that by Friday I would be finishing with chapter 17 so that next week I could piece the chapters together, and move forward. Piece them together, make sure that they fit Audible standards, make sure that the cover is good, and get it released so that people who want to hear the second part can. But I haven't done that. And so now I think the result of that is we're looking at adding another week onto the process, because I spent this week on other projects. So if we've got a week of piecing everything together, it would have been great if I was done here, because I could have used the 20th through the 24th to piece everything together, and then definitely the second part of the book would have been released before the end of October, which would be really encouraging. It's not everything, but it's very encouraging. November is going to be tough because there's a lot of time that people are off of work. The kids and my wife are going to be off and they're going to be in the house. So there's going to be a lot of days here where I can't record. And what happens after I get done with part 2 is I start recording part 3. Well, I've really only got 2 weeks to record part 3. So if this isn't done before the end of October, then I'm cutting into this recording time. So then I've got this downtime here, and I've got to try to pick it up again in December to try to get it done. And again in December, there's a lot of days where people are in the house, so I can't record, which then pushes me into January. So ideally, the audiobook, this process, this cleaning and piecing together, still gets done by the end of October. Uh, and ideally, all of the recording of part 3 gets done in the 2 weeks at the beginning of November, so that on the days when people are home, I can be doing this. I could be cleaning the audio and piecing it together. And then the ultimate, like the best case scenario, I would get everything cleaned and put together in these 2 weeks. Now, that's not going to happen because part 3 has become quite a bit larger than parts 1 and 2. So I don't think I would do that in these 2 weeks. Maybe. But then, if sometime between the 1st and the 19th of December, I was able to record part 4, then there is a reality that by the beginning of the year, it's fully released. Everything is done in 2025. And that would be lovely. So that's kind of the goal here. That's why I feel like I need to spend my time getting through this. I want to get this project done before the end of 2025, and we really have already started running out of time. Like, we're starting to run into timing constraints around the process of getting this done, which it didn't have to be this way. If I had been more focused on this part of it back in like late August, we would have much wider margins for finishing the project. So it's okay to recognize that in as much as that informs our efforts. So if that informs our efforts so that next time around we do better, we have more focus and we make more progress more quickly, then that's great. It's great to spend some time thinking about it and internalizing it and making a plan. If saying, hey, it could have been so much better, but now it's bad because I suck, if that's all it is, then that's just discouragement. And I will just wake up tomorrow and think, yeah, I do suck. So there's no reason to really work on it, because I suck. And this is impossible to accomplish. And I'm not good enough to accomplish it anyway. There's a whole death spiral involved. So that's something to avoid. Like, I don't want to think about it in that context. So that's kind of where that sits. I'm trying to think about it, and I'm trying to not think about it. I'm trying to think about it in the context of, like, okay, what are my benchmarks here? Like, what milestones do I need to achieve for this overall plan of being done before the end of 2025 to be possible? How do I get there? And also, like, there's another piece to this. I can't work like anybody. I can't work 24 hours a day. I could try to, because this is all essentially self-employment. I could try to, dump my focus into this 24 hours a day and just get as far as I can, as fast as I can, and put nothing but effort into this. But if I do that, then the rest of the family kind of falls by the wayside, and they don't get my attention, and we don't plan to do fun things with the kids, and we don't make plans for the holidays, and I don't make plans for dinners, and then everybody has to make food for themselves, and we all eat worse as a result. There's just there's just a lot of a lot of other things that hinge on moving forward in a good way. So that's why having the margins is such a nice and convenient thing. And I think if you're facing a project, or if I'm facing a project in the future, it's always good to keep in mind that while the margins aren't necessary, I can talk. While the margins are not strictly necessary, and while many of us may work very well under pressure, and might even prize doing things under pressure to show like I am exceptional, like this came right down to the wire and I still got it done. Having those margins is essential, not just for getting the project done and making sure you can get the project done, but it's also essential for making sure that you can be a person, with the rest of your life, with the rest of the things and people in your life, that you can be there for them, that you can be helpful for them. I think one of the things that is important to recognize, that has been for me very difficult to recognize, is the importance of everything going on around me, and not only the importance of the things that I am trying to do. So I've long held this feeling of the things that I'm trying to accomplish are, that's what's important for me. That's what I'm here to do, is these things that I have to accomplish. So of course, I'm going to put all of my focus into accomplishing these things. And everybody should understand that, because I have things to accomplish and I'm working on accomplishing them. And that's just how it is. And the thing that has taken me far too long to realize is that's a fine perspective, but it's only a piece of the pie. If you want to make a pie chart of all the things that you should be as a follower of Christ, or just as a person, if you will, if you want to make a pie chart of all the things you should be and all the things you should do, being about the work that is for you to do is only a portion of the pie. It's not the whole pie. And so I've spent a lot of my life living like it's the whole pie. Not entirely, of course. There have been moments of realization where I've had to come to terms with the fact that, hey, I'm doing this wrong. Like, the way that I'm doing things is not working, and it's hurting people. But actually starting to put it into my mind as like, okay, if you're looking at all the things that you can do on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis, and you look at that like in a pie chart concept, accomplishing the goals of your personal work is like, that's a slice of the pie. It's not the whole pie.
In the wake of handling the shard, Gramfeld found himself cut off from the whole Nimigai camp. He was given no instruction or direction. After Gurnus's initial outburst, his new master said nothing. Tassali hadn't continued his training. Tiggy and Dorset avoided him completely. The acolytes, already in the practice of shunning him, continued to do so. Gramfeld felt even more out of place. He had no tent of his own, and found himself alone and unsheltered on the outskirts of the expedition. Despite this, Gramfeld also felt a stronger connection to the purpose of his group than ever before. He looked in and witnessed the many moments shared within the encampment. He could now see the faintest echo of the eternally emptying stream of creativity. It was a link more powerfully present with some than others, but never more powerfully visible than when they would set themselves to the task of casting a spell. Instead of focusing on feeling outcast, he delighted in discovering how much more connected this new insight made him. He marveled to see the beautiful infinity flowing through the Nimigai group. After 2 weeks of this surreal connected disconnection, he was unceremoniously summoned to meet with Tissaili by one of her apprentices. Lupael prodded Gramfeld forward impatiently as he stooped under the entry flap for Tissaili's personal tent. Like Thunrin, Tissaili kept a simple and efficient living space that prioritized utility over aesthetic. As Gramfeld stumbled inside, he was immediately taken aback by how feminine the interior was. He wasn't sure what he had expected, but it was certainly something different from what he saw. Tissaili sat, arrayed in casual finery, with no armor and no weapons. She motioned for Gramfeld to take a seat, and then waved Lupael away. Her apprentice hesitated, glaring at Gramfeld with her hand wrapped around the hilt of her sword. It was clear Lupael did not approve, but she backed out of the tent slowly at Tissaili's insistence. The Nimigai lord regarded Gramfeld coolly. She kept her chin held high as she ruffled, then smoothed her clothing absent-mindedly. For 2 weeks, Gramfeld had experienced blissful peace. He actually enjoyed the quiet ostracization. He was happy for the reprieve.
There's a couple words in there that I didn't say very well. But I think overall, it's solid. We're good. All right. It is what? It's 10:55 now. I think we're coming up to, I'm going to take a break. So the goal, obviously, is still that I'm going to finish chapter 14 today. I don't necessarily know how that's going to happen. I know a lot of what the schedule is for the rest of the day. But I'm going to fit it in. I'm going to make sure it gets done. I also want to make sure that I do all of my streaming projects today because I think I've been ignoring them too much. And if I really want to do streaming, you know, it doesn't matter. There's the again. My advice to myself is that it doesn't matter who's watching it or not watching it. What matters is doing it and doing it consistently, which I've not been. I've been happy to let it fall by the wayside, particularly as I'm working on projects like this, which are difficult to do.
Tissaili broke the silence, but her voice cracked as she spoke, revealing some unspoken vulnerability in her demeanor.
It's difficult to do this and talk about anything at the same time, because I'm there's the again. I'm focusing in. It's worse because I'm calling it out, right? So now it's more obvious that I'm doing it. So if I just didn't do that, it would be better. But it's really bothering me the way that I talk sometimes. Doesn't matter. Anyway, yes, it is difficult to do this and to think about other things at the same time. But actually, it's not difficult to do this part.
And pull.
It's not difficult to take out the silences. It's difficult when I'm actually listening to the audio of the section because I want to listen for breaths and for things that I can fix as far as like mouth noises and things like that. And then also for any mistakes that I didn't catch in the recording process. Like if I said a word very poorly or just really messed up on a section and then I didn't re-record it, I want to catch that as well so that I can fix that. And trying to catch those things and trying to talk about other things at the same time has proven to be more than my brain can handle, sadly. Maybe in my youth I could have handled it, but now not so much. Okay, that's fully a breath. Definitely want to take that out. So the initial thought, the meanness toward people who use AI, I think what kind of helped me in internalizing this was to think that, let's say there was an artist who, and this maybe even has happened. There's an artist who worked only with traditional medium, painting, pencils, pastels, gouache, or however you say that, watercolors, markers, pens, you name it, only traditional. The artist is skilled and talented at just sitting down with a canvas or a piece of paper and expressing themselves, in a direct and linear fashion by putting their idea down. And let's say that artist were to say, people who use digital art programs are cheating, because there's a lasso tool, so you can limit where your colors or lines go, and there's an undo button, which is ridiculous. There's no such thing in real life.
Tassali stopped and pulled her head back into an even more upright position. As Gramfeld regarded her, he was struck afresh by how young she was. It was easy to forget that she was only a few years older than him. She had accomplished so much. But as she struggled to speak with him, her vulnerability belied the fortress of accomplishments Gramfeld typically thought of when he looked at her. She was his superior, his better. He was merely another apprentice among the many commanded by the Nimigai lords. Yet, as he gazed at her, he saw none of that. He saw only a woman overcome by some form of circumspection.
So let's say this artist, hang on a second. I need to record where I have stopped so I don't end up redoing files or skipping files. So we're in chapter 14, and 14 section 2 clip 3 is done, but nothing after that. So let's say that artist insulted everybody who uses Photoshop or a computer in any capacity at all. It's like, it's cheating. It's ridiculous. You're not an artist, because when you draw a line, if you don't like it, you just press Control Z and it goes away, and you could try again. That takes no skill. You don't have to have any skill to get a line right when you can just instantly erase it and try again. You just have to have patience, not skill. Nobody who uses a digital art solution is an artist, or could call themselves an artist. I have no respect for them whatsoever, and I think it's ridiculous for anybody to think that I would. If you're not using your skill to express what's in your mind directly to the page, without any of the comfort of an undo or a lasso tool, if you can't do that, you're not an artist. You're just a cheater. You're just a cheater and a liar. Because when you present a finished product, everybody's going to think that you just sat down and drew that, but you didn't. You sat down and you just kept working on it until everything was perfect the way that you wanted it. You're not artists. You're not, there's no comparison. Now, if this hypothetical person said this and thought this and presented it, I would say, yeah, he's right. Those are good points. Um, can't argue with that. I mean, obviously, he has the skill to do this, and I don't. So we are not in the same league. Like this person is way better than I am. Uh, those are just facts. Um, and I think also, like, I wouldn't even necessarily be mad at that person for having that viewpoint. Like, it's an earned viewpoint. Um, they have worked hard to get to where they are and to be able to do what they do. Um, I think what I would say about it is it's not a generous viewpoint. Um, it's very uh, it's very stingy. You know, anybody who doesn't operate at the same level as this person um, becomes instantly unworthy of recognition or support. And I think it's a very ungenerous viewpoint. So, what I would say about people who hate AI artists, um, I don't think that all of the anger, comes from a corollary to the example that I gave. Um, I think there is a lot of frustration with people who, like me, don't have an interest in developing any kind of a skill. They have a thought about what they want to see, and then they use a tool that can interact with their verbal description of that thought and generate something that approximates it. Uh, I think the frustration with that is deeply personal, because the artists who are frustrated by that have invested time and effort into developing a skill that allows them to do that without using such a tool. Um, and let's be honest, it allows them to do it better. Uh, but I think part of the frustration is artists feel like this delegitimizes the skill that they have. And in some contexts, it does, unfortunately. But I guess for myself, um, not in terms of art, because again, I'm not going to claim that I'm an artist. I'm generating things with AI. I'm doing a paint over. I think that I am developing some useful skills, and I think that I am doing a good job, and I'm proud of the work that I'm putting out there. But I'm also, you know, but I'm not interested in developing art skills. I'm not interested in going into traditional mediums and reproducing what I'm doing. That's just not, I don't have time for that in my head. It doesn't align with my interests at this time. So I'm not going to call myself an artist in that way. Um, but I think, let's say as a writer, because writing is something that's dear to me. And writing is something where I look and I see people using AI and I think, okay, um, they created some prose that is enjoyable to read. They shared an idea through that created prose, but I do, like I, similar to the artist, I feel like it's a different thing. Like when I write, I'm writing. I'm doing I have the skill and I'm doing the whole process myself, and I'm thinking through it and I'm writing it and I'm choosing the words. Um, but I want to have a more generous attitude toward the people around me. Like let's say, because there are several authors out there who they just AI prompt books and they release a ton of books every year. Like it doesn't take them the amount of time that it takes me to produce a book. Um, and they're earning money and I'm not. I want to have a more generous view toward those people to say, okay, you know, maybe you're proud of what you're doing and you're proud of the ideas that you've presented and you're proud of the fact that people have resonated with those ideas and have enjoyed what you've put out there. So, you know, I don't want to be a person sitting on the sidelines saying, yeah, but you're not a real writer. You're not as good as me. I want to have a more generous viewpoint than that. Yeah. I don't know that I really have anything of substance to say aside from that. So that's my thought for today. I need to move on to the next project. So that's it.